Hello everybody and welcome back to another Banking App Insights session, and we are looking at the US regional banks for June of 2022, and wow, what an up and down show it is there, with the exception of TD Bank, who seem to be consistently performing well. Consistency is probably the theme that we're going to be covering in this session. And it's not great consistency, is it, Tony Patrick, with consistency seeming to really hurt every other bank in this segment, and Huntington especially is the perennial underperformer, and we're going to have a little look at that and see where things may be going quite badly wrong.
Great, thank you, Glenn. And consistency is the biggest concern here. We mentioned TD Bank, and we'll have a look at it in a second where we see that the engaged customer score. But today looking at Huntington, we'll see why in a moment. So let's jump in and have a look at some scores. So one of the things we can see here, now this is our engaged customer score. So this is essentially those who are giving a comment and a score, and this is the best way to see real movement. So if your app is having a problem, you will see it pretty much straight away to the day in this data. We do see that, like in red here we have TD, so I'll just highlight that here. We see they had some issues sort of the end of last year and the start of this year, but they seem to have picked up, and so what we're not seeing with TD is those big month to month drop ups and downs, and they seem to have been consistent from March, and that seems to that's how you can be a leader, is that consistency. Now the one that's sort of bumping up against TD is Fifth Third. Now one of the things about them, that consistency is not good. They tend to jump up and down with the months, just about, with a few months in between of fixing something, and then it sort of tends to jump back down again. They're in a bit of that lull at the moment. They've got sort of a few months here of sitting at just above 3.5, whereas previously they were sitting just below 4. So they again, consistency is an issue there. What I want to focus on today, though, is we can see here with one of the banks here, Huntington. So they have consistently sort of been behind the market, and so that's obviously a problem in its own right, averaging sort of between around 2.5, somewhere around there. So not that good, and again they're suffering from that up and down issue, whereas we've mentioned in other sessions about whack-a-mole, they sort of seem to be fixing something, then fixing the next thing, and so on, and moving forward. So they need a bit of a strategy about how they can actually get on top of these things earlier and make sure they're not happening consistently, and that makes your score go up. So one of the things we've seen here is, like, we haven't bumping along at just about 2.25 for this year, but they've actually had a drop into June. So that's an issue for them. They've actually got lower than that low level. So that's a problem. So let's have a look at why that's gone on. So one of the first things, one of our diagnostics we first look at, so for those who are used to this, you'll understand how important this actually is. So what we're looking at here is our surf analysis, which looks at the basics of actually making an app work. So you get your security, can I log in properly, your usability, your reliability, and your functionality. Now in here, the lower the score, the better, because that's just showing you don't have issues in that area. Whereas clearly here, what we're looking at is between May and June for Huntington, there were more reliability issues. It's gone from 44 up to 57, so there's a big jump there. And that's probably the biggest thing, actually. Reliability issues have jumped up, but usability problems have also jumped up, 7 points there. Just to give you some slight context about what is 56, is that good or bad? It looks bad in its own right, where more than half of your customers are talking about reliability problems. What I can have a quick look at here is, let's see how well that compares to the others in this segment. Let's look at it by bank and apply across the right here. And what I can quickly see is that Huntington is sitting at 57%. That's what we saw in here. That's well above others. We're getting some at 48.35, but the best here we've got TD, for example, is at 12, and that's a massive gap between what's good and what is a really bad underperformer in this space. So that's some context from there. Now, one of the things that we also like to look at is frequency is interesting, but I want to see how much this is impacting my score. So the people who talk about the topic of reliability, how much is it dragging my score backwards? I can see that in May it was 0.34, so it's taking your score backwards by 0.34. That's bad enough in its own right. So if you fix these issues, in a sense, you could actually gain 0.34 in your score, which Huntington are sort of looking for an increase in their score. In June, it's got even worse. They've lost another 0.2 points just on this reliability issue. And again, there's other drops elsewhere which can be covered in other sessions if when we have a chat closely with our clients around this.
And
so
on a 5-point scale, that's significant.
That's significant. Like a 0.2 drop, you've just lost 0.2 points on a particular issue with reliability. So it's a massive thing. What I can look at next, though, is looking at how this is actually, this sort of issue, also the other areas like technical issues and app not working, etc., and app crashes. Now, app crashes hasn't gone up by much. It was 2.4. It's gone to 3.2. But technical issues broadly have increased. Let's have a quick look at what they might be. So if I have a look in here around these sort of technical issues on the right panel here, I might just focus us here on some things that are the really negative ones, or maybe even just the ones and twos, probably a better way of looking at it. And what I can see in here, when this pops up here, so for example, people not being able to log in, the app just doesn't work, the new version is broken, there's a blank screen. So lots of different issues popping through in those technical issues. So that reliability problem is going across lots of different areas, including the app freezing and other various things like that. So not a good look when a customer is trying to do something basic with your app. Let's have a brief look at some particular features sitting in here, or things that you actually want to do or want to actually get to do with your app. So monitoring account activity, checking account balance, and making P2P payments. You think they're fairly straightforward and what an app should actually excel on, a bank app should. The score, when people talk about these previously in May, was say 3.2 for account activity, monitoring your account activity. It's now 1.6. So again, there's issues across various features and journeys in the app as well. So for example, if I want to look at this one about checking account balance, that's had a major drop from 3.2 down to 1.2. So definitely issues happening in June in this particular area. Now, one of the things in here is people actually can't check their account balance. It'd be nice to be able to see my balance. It's not letting me check my account balance or anything. It can't connect to the internet. So a basic thing like seeing your account balance cannot be done by lots of customers. So again, if they're not aware of this, I'm sure they should be, but that's a major thing they should be fixing pretty much straight away. So we can see there that Huntington has some issues, but they've just got worse recently. And if they aren't on top of them, this could be a major problem for months to come.
Yep, and a serious indicator of churn risk. And if you cannot get basic functionality right, you are putting everything at risk in regards to customer retention. Thanks again, Tony. Another great session, and look forward to looking at some of the other market segments in the other sessions coming up.
Thank you.